Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific Time. The audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com. That's bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. Again, that's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave contact information, I can't call you back. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by mainstream media. I always select a few for my listeners' education. Most are good shootings, some are questionable, some are just plain wrong, but all are educational for those of you who keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one for self-defense in your vehicle or on the street. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. The advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun-savvy defense attorney is always recommended. Stories here are paraphrased for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional accents into more standard American English. The incidents are as reported, but the names of the individuals involved are deleted. The identification of the cops, the lawyers, and the media are generally used. Here we go. This first story comes to us from WXXV TV25. It's a virtual Fox News affiliate, reported January 25, 2021 in Moss Point, Mississippi. Police reported they received a call at around 6:30 Sunday evening, January 24, reporting shots fired in the Mill Avenue area of East Moss Point. Officers responded to the 911 calls, and after arriving, they found a man lying in the roadway. The male victim appeared to have been shot and was pronounced dead at the scene. Police Chief Brandon Ashley says the deceased victim and another man had attempted to carry out an armed home invasion of a residence in the area. The two men approached the door of their target residence and encountered the homeowner. At least one of the two men fired multiple times at the homeowner, striking him at least once. The homeowner returned fire, striking at least one of the two intruders. That intruder was fatally wounded and collapsed in the roadway. The second home invader fled the scene. The homeowner was treated and released from the hospital for his gunshot wounds. The two suspects have not yet been identified. Authorities say the case will be presented next to the next grand jury for review. Anyone with information on this case is asked to call the Moss Point Police Department. Their number is 228-475-1711, or contact Mississippi Coast Crime Stoppers at 1-877-787-5898. Comments on this case: another criminal leaves his partner to die and flees the scene. There really is no honor among thieves. Note that they came in shooting. No time to think. The resident is just suddenly being shot at. If the police are on the same block, there is no time for officers to intervene. The intended victim is clearly dead if he had not been armed. The when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, is the statement that usually comes to mind. If your firearm is stored in a locked safe, as Biden-Harris apparently are requiring, you are dead. If it is stored unloaded, you are dead. If it only holds 6 shots, you are probably dead. If you have sold it to the government in a forced buyback, you are certainly dead. Our future new cause of death for coroners to use is death by executive order. Can you see that on a coroner's report? I died because the executive order said I couldn't get my gun in time. We're going to break here for just a moment for a commercial of my latest book, which is on Amazon, and I'll be right back in just a moment. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. And we are back. The book looks like this, Amazon Kindle. Amazon Kindle. You can look it up and get it online for a couple bucks. And they also have hard copies if you want to order one of those. They make them at Amazon where they have it on Kindle. They make hard copies when you order it. Of course, they're computer guys. Anyway, we're back here. Second story. The Salyersville Independent, a journalist named Heather Oney, reports January 17, 2021, in far Middle Fork, Kentucky. On Sunday, a 911 call came in to the Magoffin County Dispatch reporting a shooting at a mobile home on Kentucky Road, KY Route 378, it's called to them, near the Magoffin and Breathitt County line. I can say that. The Kentucky State Police investigators responded to the home and discovered a male had been shot. According to the press release from the Kentucky State Police, the initial investigation indicates a 21-year-old subject from Olive Hill was unlawfully inside the home. Magoffin County Deputy Coroner named Brian Parker told the media after forcing entry, he demanded their belongings and money, and there was an altercation. From the narrative that's here, it appears they both were inside and then both went outside at some time. It says, the resident then walked around the corner of his SUV, grabbed a Ruger 22 and fired a shot in the air. The resident asked the 28-year-old to please leave the property, but the intruder refused. He then punched the resident in the face. The 28-year-old then grabbed a hammer and came around the front of the vehicle, threatening the resident's life, presumably verbally. It doesn't say in the story how he did that. The resident then fired several shots, striking this 28-year-old intruder in the chest. Multiple shots were fired, but only one shot hit the intruder. The deceased's body was sent to the Kentucky Medical Examiner's office in Frankfort for an autopsy and toxicology report. That's to see why he would refuse to leave when a gun was pointed at him. The 28-year-old was pronounced deceased at the scene by the county coroner's office. The KSP detective Kevin Newsom is leading the investigation, and he was assisted on the scene by the KSP personnel and lifeguard ambulance service. Magoffin County Rescue Squad and Magoffin County Coroner's Office also responded to the scene. According to the KSP, the investigation will be presented to the Magoffin County grand jury for consideration. No charges have been filed at this time, and the incident is being handled as a self-defense case. More details. The 28-year-old's mother told the coroner's office her son had a history of drug addiction and has been in and out of jail for multiple reasons. A DUI on January 2nd of this year, probation violation in 2017, and in 2016, he was arrested and convicted of manufacturing methamphetamine. Comments. This is a single source story with obviously some conflicting statements. That being said, it's pretty clearly a reasonable case of self-defense. The warning shot was a bad idea, although it apparently did not hit anybody. What goes up must come down, and every bullet launched hits something, right? Verbal warnings are much better when time allows their use. The likelihood of this particular invader responding to any verbal warning is near zero, but the use of it can deflect civil lawsuits. If you warned him, it's better for your side when the inevitable case goes to court. We're going to break now for a word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And here we are again. Third story. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department reported January 24, 2021 in Lake Matthews, California, a property owner shot a former resident during an altercation in the unincorporated community of Lake Matthews. It happened just after 9 in the evening in the 21,000 block of Hartford Park Lane. Sergeant Richard Carroll said the former resident physically threatened the property owner. He said that during the confrontation, the property owner feared for their safety and their family's safety and used a firearm against the assailant. The former resident, he's 39 years old, was pronounced dead at the scene despite life-saving efforts from first responders. Because the shooting appears to have been in self-defense, sheriff's officials said no arrests have been made, although the investigation is ongoing. The investigation is ongoing, and anyone with information is encouraged to contact the Central Homicide Unit investigator. His name is Juarez, Investigator Juarez, at 951-955-2777. Comments here. A former resident arrives at the home and threatens the current resident. There is nothing in this account to explain why the incident happened. The perp thought he still owned the property. Investigators say it appears to be self-defense. There may be more to this than reported. The belief that the property owner feared for his safety seems acceptable to the investigators, so it becomes another example of an armed household being able to defend themselves. Anyone with information should certainly contact the Central Homicide Unit, their investigator Juarez, at 951-955-2777. They really are looking for answers. If you know anything about this case, give Investigator Juarez a call, please. Story number 4. The Macomb, wow, I can't talk this morning. Macomb County Sheriff's Office reported January 25, 2021, like a day before we're doing this, in Harrison Township, Michigan, an incident happened just after 12:30 in the afternoon at the Harrison Woods condominiums on Harrison Woods Lane. It's in the area of North Point Parkway and Metropolitan Parkway. Sheriff Anthony Wickersham said it was basically a home invasion where the occupants were home and shot the individual who was coming in. According to the news release, sheriff's deputies were dispatched to the complex for a home invasion in progress. While deputies were on the way, dispatch notified them that other residents were calling in, apparently reporting hearing gunshots. Sheriff's Sergeant David Crabtree said that upon their arrival, deputies found a 26-year-old Redford Township man dead inside the residence. It was determined that the decedent forced his way into the home and was subsequently shot by one of the occupants. The occupants are Harrison Township woman and man, Harrison Township woman and a man from Inkster. Both are 27 years old, were taken to the sheriff's office in Mount Clemens. They have since been released. Sheriff Wickersham said the apartment occupants were being cooperative with the deputies. Police believe the invaders and the victims knew each other. The sheriff added that his office would be conferring with the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office, and that office will be the ones to make the determination as to whether this was a justifiable homicide. Comments here, another example of an armed home invasion wherein the victims, had the victims not been armed, they most certainly would be dead. Having the means to defend yourself is critical during these times of increased criminal violence against soft targets. Retail stores and gated communities are reinforcing themselves with cameras, armed security, and steel gates. Interesting here, the sheriff added, there is no reason for the residents of Harrison Township to be alarmed, and that this incident marked the 4th fatal shooting this month in Macomb County. He said there's no reason to worry about anything, and yet this is the fourth fatal shooting in Macomb County. Those two statements simply cannot both be true, can they? It's either one or the other. Anyway, we're going to break for another word here from a few of our friends and associates, and we'll be right back. This is a pretty short commercial, so not a time to get a cup of coffee. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. And here I am again. I wanted to just put kind of a personal note here. An actor named Bruce Kirby, he was best known in the original movie Columbo. He played Columbo, not the TV series, but in the movie that started it. And he was also on LA Law for years and years, has died at the age of 95. He was an upstairs neighbor of mine back when I lived in Hollywood. On Christmas Eve, he called my then 3-year-old son, acting as Santa Claus, to discuss presents and if he had helped around the house enough to be on the good list. This guy, Bruce Kirby, was an incredible guy, a wonderful man. He will be missed. I treasure his friendship from years and years ago. So now we'll go to story number 5. KHOU-TV11, a journalist named Michelle Choi, reported January 22nd, 2021 in Sugar Land, Texas. Sugar Land police said a shooting was reported about 4:30 in the early morning in the 200 block of Shadowwood in the Sugar Hill subdivision. I'm sorry, that's Sugar Mill subdivision. According to the Assistant Chief of Police, Michelle Allen, the woman told police she was asleep when she heard a noise at her back door. She grabbed a gun and found a man had broken a window and was trying to get in. She opened fire on the suspect, shooting him in the chest. The man fled the scene, going less than a block through neighbors' backyards, but responding officers managed to track him because of the trail of blood he left behind. The 21-year-old suspect survived and was taken to Memorial Hermann Hospital. He was arrested and charged with burglary of a habitation and unlawfully carrying a weapon. The woman had her 8-year-old child with her in the home, but neither was physically hurt. Comments here, more and more armed citizens find themselves victims of unprovoked attacks. As mentioned in an earlier story, businesses in large apartment buildings are becoming hardened targets with lights, cameras, and on-site armed security. Less financially capable areas are bearing the brunt of the attacks. Fortunately for this intended victim, she was armed and so able to defend herself and her child. I want you to note here that the perp with a chest wound ran through several backyards before he was captured. Wounded suspects rarely die immediately, that's only on television, but rather remain a threat for some time. Never expect your attacker to drop dead on the spot. Keep hard cover between the bad guy and yourself if you are alone while calling 911. Help will usually arrive within a few minutes. If they don't, Go to a nearby resident that you know and wait there until police arrive. Wounded suspects can kill you. Don't believe they're dead. They usually run out the door when they're shot dead, and they find the body someplace else, as in a previous story on this show. Okay, last story. This is the Seattle Times, a journalist named Sarah Jean Green. Each time I read that, I thought, can you imagine Sarah Green Jean, all the kidding she went through in childhood? Anyway, reports January 26, 2021 in Des Moines, Washington. That is Washington State. The state of Washington. The state of Washington, D.C. isn't a state yet, but they're working on that right now, as most people know. Des Moines Police Sergeant Dave Moore said around 4 in the afternoon Wednesday, several people called 911 after hearing gunshots in the 22,900 block of 30th Avenue South. The sergeant said the police investigation found that a 31-year-old Renton man had reported his car stolen on January 18th, and 2 days later, the vehicle was located by the Des Moines police. The owner asked that the car not be impounded, and he went to the vehicle's location on his motorcycle to await his own tow truck. That's fine. While the 31-year-old was waiting, an SUV pulled up, driven by a 30-year-old man with a 45-year-old man as passenger. The 45-year-old got out of the SUV and struck up a conversation with the Renton man about his motorcycle. The 45-year-old then pulled a gun and demanded the younger man's backpack, pocketing his weapon as the Renton man handed over the bag. The 31-year-old car thief victim then pulled out his own gun. The 45-year-old robber retrieved his gun from his pocket and fired. He missed the 31-year-old, who returned fire, striking this 45-year-old now robber multiple times. The 45-year-old was treated at the scene but died soon after arriving at Seattle's Harborview Medical Center. The King County Medical Examiner ruled the death is a homicide. The medical examiner classifies deaths as natural, accidental, homicide, suicide, or undetermined. A determination of a homicide means only the person responsible for another person's death. It does not necessarily indicate criminal culpability. The 31-year-old Renton man and his SUV driver were both interviewed by officers, and Des Moines police have sent their case to King County prosecutors to be reviewed. The Renton man was not arrested or booked in jail. Sergeant David Moore added that to his knowledge, it's just an odd coincidence. There is no evidence the 45-year-old was involved in stealing this 31-year-old Renton man's car. Moore said the 31-year-old was legally in possession of a handgun and had a valid concealed pistol license at the time of the shooting. Comments here. Being the victim of a car theft, what are the odds another criminal will rob you while you're recovering your vehicle? It's got to be 1,000,000 to 1. That is why honest citizens should always carry. You never get to pick the time and place of an attack. The philosophy I often hear, I only carry when I go someplace dangerous, is really poor planning. First, if it's dangerous to go there, don't go there. Second, always carry if you can, because trouble can always find you. In this case, it found him twice. That's my show for the week. Check out our disclaimer following this broadcast. It'll help you understand how we put the stories together. You can check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. Please patronize our friends and supporters. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. While watching any media, just click on subscribe and new shows will be sent to your phone or computer automatically. My logo merchandise, hats, shirts, and books are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus, on the Las Vegas Strip. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield Vegas is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of other firearms and even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their associated outdoor facility. Transportation is provided. Contact info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you so much for watching Fired Up. I'll be back next week with more stuff. Who knows what Biden-Harris will have done by then.